It is now 23 minutes after 7, and this is Morning Express. It's time for the political point. This morning, we are just hours after the IEBC declared Uhuru Kenyatta president-elect following the recently concluded repeat presidential election. It is an election that has left the country divided right in the middle, with the opposition leader Raila Odinga having successfully marshaled his supporters to boycott the poll. And yesterday's declaration was met with jubilation and disappointment in equal measure. But with the president-elect anticipating legal challenges of his win at the Supreme Court, Uhuru is more than ready for any petition. It is a victory that the opposition coalition NASA dismissed even before Wafula Chebukati's declaration. And now Raila will be making his big announcement this morning on the way forward. What are Raila's options? Is the country ready for a third poll in a row? Is dialogue an option? Already the president-elect has said he will only engage in dialogue once the court processes have been exhausted. This is the political point, and to digest some of these issues, I have in studio Kiminini Member of Parliament Chris Omala and former Anaiboi legislator Samuel Chepkonga. Welcome, gentlemen. Good to have you this morning. And before we even proceed to the what we need to talk about, I think you wanted to send a message of condolences to the late Bishop Cornelius Korir.
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to send my message of condolences to the Diocese of Eldoret, where Bishop Cornelius Korir was the head. Myself, as the chairman of the Catholic Members of Parliament Association in Kenya, we worked very closely with Bishop Cornelius Korir. He was actually the chairman of Justice and Peace in the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. Bishop Korir was a wonderful person. He was very humble. He was a peacemaker. And I remember last time I was with him on Citizen TV, I think during Power Breakfast or Citizen Extra. And it was me from the NASA side, and I think Senator Matangi, the Senator of Kiambu, from the side of Jubilee side. And I remember his words. He was appealing to His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga to come together for dialogue. You know, he was a peacemaker and was looking for a solution. And to me, now that he's gone, and I was looking at the tweets that President Uhuru and William Ruto did yesterday, I think in respect to this departed soul who was a peacemaker, I think they must lead by an example, and if possible, give room to dialogue. I was so disappointed personally when I listened to President Uhuru's speech
we'll
yesterday.
come to the dialogue.
So as we move on, this is the lowest moment, particularly to the Catholic Church. And you know, this is a church that has been on the front line in terms of matters of peace. And Bishop Cornelius Korir, he was so particular because initially he was a bishop of, I think, 50 parishes going up to Kitale before Anthony Crowley came in. And last engagement, we were also together. He had brought the leaders from Turkana, Trans Nzoia, and West Pokot, who were together, also with Bishop Kemengich from Lodwar, where there was these disputes on the boundaries. So he was a peacemaker. And now, at a time like this, we mourn and we pray to Almighty God to give us the strength to overcome this.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Chepkonga, very briefly.
Thank you, Michael. As you know, I come from first and foremost, I would like to send my condolences to the Diocese of Eldoret and the fraternity of Eldoret for the unexpected loss of a very reasonable person in the name of Bishop Korir. We sadly will miss him. He has been involved in a number of peace missions in the North Rift, and he has been very hardworking. I remember when I went to see him in 2003, when my houses had been unfortunately demolished by the former Prime Minister, and he was very compassionate. He was very compassionate, and I remember his advice, please go and sue them. And that is the sort of a man. I'm not a Catholic myself, but he is a man that was dependable. He was a person with humility. He followed in Christ's example of loving people. And as you remember, in 2007, 2008, he opened his church to victims of post-election violence who came in his church, and he provided for them. And so this was a very exemplary person in terms of looking at things in a very objective manner. And he was also both realistic. Yeah.
All right. Now, we also are sending our condolences and our prayers are with the family. But now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has opened a dialogue window after being declared president-elect. However, Uhuru says he will only engage in talks after the opposition coalition NASA has exhausted all court processes, with NASA likely to challenge his win. But his deputy, William Ruto, is on record dismissing any election-related talks before 2022.
You want to ask me, are you going to engage in dialogue with so and so and so and so? Let them first and foremost exhaust their constitutionally laid out processes. Let them go to court, let them do whatever they want. Nobody shall deny them of their constitutional right. Those issues we shall discuss later. As to my agenda going forward, I will discuss once the processes are over. I am not going to jump the gun.
Our statement and our position to our friend Mr. Odinga is that Kenya is a constitutional democracy. And every imaginable situation has been provided for by the Constitution. Whatever he is alleging about an election, I don't know, in 90 days, he's nowhere in the Constitution. And no one person, however important they think they are, however popular they think they are, can change the provisions of the Constitution. Kenya is not the animal farm where there are some that are more equal than others. All of us, the president included, are subject to the Constitution. The Constitution provides that there will be a rerun within 60 days. That is what happened on the 26th, Thursday last week. And Kenya will move on from there. There will be no election in 90 days. There will be no discussion on matters to do with election. We will have dialogue with Mr. Odinga on other matters, not matters that have been settled by the people of Kenya in their supreme will in a ballot.
All right, so those are some of the submissions that have been made by Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, Honorable William Ruto. Let me start with you, Honorable Chris. In regards to the declaration of President-elect yesterday, or the announcement of President-elect yesterday by the IEBC chair, is definitely a step that Kenya has made. Would you view it as a positive or a negative step?
I see it as negative. It is a sham. And I want to give reasons why I'm saying it's a sham. In fact, even yesterday, if you looked at the body language of President Uhuru, you see, he was not a happy man, because he knows very well that when it comes to that legitimacy, first of all, when you talk about the turnout of 38%, you ask yourself, where is the 62%? Does it imply 62% is with Raila Amolo Odinga? You are coming in as a minority. And going back to Kanu days, President Moi ruled this country with a minority. We know very well he had maybe a win of around 32%. And in the new constitution, we have very clear provisions that maybe need to guarantee that whoever comes in as a president, he has a majority. For instance, it talks about the president must win at least 50% plus one. It talks about at least 25% in at least the 24 counties. These have been measures put in place to ensure that whoever comes in as a president has the majority mandate.
But if we were to
First
go
and
legally,
foremost,
if we were to go legally, doesn't he have all those? He has
I was coming to that. I was trying to give you a context where we are coming from.
Okay.
Coming from minority, but at least have a president maybe who controls the majority. But in this case, you know, the August elections, the turnout was almost around 80%. Up to now, we don't even know what is the turnout that we had. But we know very well what Maraga said, No. I want to dispute that because that tabulation came in using the manual aspect. And I want to go back to the Crickler report. Crickler was very clear and he said, for us to remove electoral malpractices, we must go the IT way. But what happened in these elections? When it came to biometric identification, we were told some numbers were identified biometrically using those electronic gadgets, but a big substantial number, they were being identified manually. And we go back to the Crickler report, which said that without the electronic system, we had some people rising from Langata Cemetery, coming back to vote. After voting, they go back to the Langata Cemetery. And I have no doubt that this voter turnout we've had people who have come from Langata Cemetery who came and voted and disappeared. Okay. And that's why we have discrepancies when it comes to the turnout. How do you expect the chairman Chebukati of a whole IBC, you come out and say 6.5 million Kenyans turned up to vote, and if you're using the electronic system, it's just a click of the button, then it will tell you what is the voter turnout. All right, Today it has gone up. I will not be, even we have had some reports which say it's gone up to 48%. So the issue of numbers, and Maraga in their ruling, they were very clear. They said this, that the election is a process. It's not about just numbers. The numbers that have been inflated, we're not going to talk about the numbers. But we must have no doubt that this election will go back to Supreme Court is going to be nullified. All right. And that's why the president was not even happy, because he knows the bridge ahead is even harder, cannot be manipulated easily the way it happened maybe in IBC.
All right, one may say that he was quite happy and he was smiling and all that, but anyway, that's subject to somebody's interpretation. But you've referred to the Crickler report several times. Does NASA subscribe to the Crickler report?
Absolutely.
You do. All right, now the same Crickler report does indicate, or rather recommend, that the Secretariat for the IEBC must be in place 2 years before the election. But it's the same NASA that has, well, we had the Isaac Hassan team, first of all, removed. Now we also had Chiloba was under fire that he should be removed. Before we go to the election, NASA was basically leading and championing the fact that the Secretariat and some of the officials should be changed. The same Crickler report that you're referring to, isn't that doublespeak?
Now, I'll come to that. You know, whatever happened about our famous irreducible minimums, these irreducible minimums came as a result of the nullification. And the nullification was purely on matters of, there were illegalities and irregularities. As a matter of fact, IBC themselves had come up with about 48 irreducible minimums. And from their own words, they said the irreducible minimums that NASA had come up with, they were reasonable. For instance, one of the requirements we were looking at was the Algrea, this company that printed the ballot papers. They made serious mistakes. Some ballot papers came in, they were not serialized. They never had those security features. Hence, they were vulnerable to manipulation. And this affected the elections. Two, when we talk about the Saffron Morton, the one that was providing the IT, I remember very well, the judge asked the advocate of IBC, Bwana Nyamodi, those things that were coming on TV, those results, what were they? What did Nyamodi respond? That, sorry, they were not results, they were statistics. That tells you we had something wrong about the servers. Up to now, the servers have never been opened, and this is contempt of court. So this is to tell you that whatever the demands you were demanding, they were genuine.
All right. Honorable Chepkonga, according to NASA, Uhuru Kenyatta, even if he was declared president and sworn in, is a leader of a minority by virtue of the fact that NASA's leader, Raila Odinga, calling for a boycott, there was evidently a huge response to his call, his beck and call, that people should not come out and vote. However, we have 7.4 million Kenyans who have gone to the polls and said, this is the person we want as president. What is your stand as Jubilee? What's your take on that?
Thank you, Michael. First and foremost, I'd like to take this opportunity to first wish the KCP students who are sitting for the exams today all the best and success in their endeavors, and also the KCSE, the Form Force. Secondly, I would like to congratulate the President-elect, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the Deputy President, William Ruto, for a well-deserved victory in which they won, pursuant to an order by the Supreme Court. The President and Deputy President did not want to go for a repeat election. They had, first and foremost, won on the 8th of August. They had 8.4 million votes, the majority. And everybody knows that Raila got 6.7 million votes. He was defeated by 1.5 million votes. So, I mean, there was nothing. In fact, I hear my good friend Honorable Wamalwa claiming that the president was very unhappy. To the contrary, I saw them smiling. I don't know. When you see somebody smiling, whether that is unhappiness. And he's telling us some body language. As far as I'm concerned, his body language was in sync with his smile. And he was very happy. In fact, including myself, I was very happy. You know, when you choose to boycott an election in which you had sought for a repeat election, you know the consequences of the order of the Supreme Court required Raila Odinga and Honorable Wamalwa to go back to the people. But they refused to go back to the people, and they wanted to depress the numbers. And that is the reason why you hear them complaining about some numbers that were declared by IBC. First and foremost, they were not contestants. I would have listened to Ekuru Aukot and Kaluyu and Jirongo if they were complaining, because they were participants. You withdraw and you tell your supporters and voters, please do not vote.
But you'll agree with me, they're major stakeholders by virtue of the fact that people listened to what the opposition leader had to say. And looking at the results from voter turnout of 80% to 38.8%, you cannot tell me that that's not...
Michael, listen. I think you need to have facts on your hands, as I will ask my good friend Honorable Wamalwa. On the 8th of August, we have 15 million voters who voted. There are about 4.8 million people who never voted. I never heard the Honorable Wamalwa, neither the NASA Brigade, asking what happened to the 4.8 million. If there's any standard we are going to use, we will use the standard of August, where everybody turned up to vote who wanted to vote. They wanted to exercise their right. But 15 million voted in this election, in which NASA asked their supporters to boycott, to stay at home, and to use violence to prevent people from voting.
But do you agree that
just hold on. You know, you cannot force a division and then you come and claim that the country is divided. So President Uhuru Kenyatta never went to the Supreme Court to ask for the nullification of his election. He never went to the Supreme Court to order for fresh elections. It is Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka went to the Supreme Court, requested the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed with them that the process in which it was followed, they never questioned the numbers. They were in fact happy with the numbers. They said, this election does not turn on numbers. They said this election also includes processes. Okay. And these are processes that were caused by IBC. It was not caused by Uhuru Kenyatta. In fact, and they said, there is nobody at IBC who was culpable. The only song we had was Chilopa Must Go. You have heard that Krikla said, the commissioners must be in place 2 years before. And you know what happened? During our 10th parliament, in which Wamalwa and myself sat, and as you know, I was the chair of Justice and Legal Affairs, and I'm the immediate outgoing, because they have not appointed another one. You know, they have to elect another one.
Yes.
So I am still outgoing. You remember the law that they prepared.
I need Honorable Wamalwa.
I'm finishing. I'll come back. I'll cede ground. I just wanted to say that, you know, all the laws that were made was pursuant to some agreement that was made at Windsor between Kiraitu and Orengo team, in which they brought some laws to us to pass. And you know, we were told, don't put even a comma. All of it must pass, because Papa said this thing must pass. And I remember I was asking the majority leader, surely, we have some amendments here from Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. Why should these amendments, which sound very reasonable, it is bipartisan, it was accepted by both sides of the political divide. And he said, look, you know, for the time being, we should pass them as they are. We do not want any political acrimony. And this election was conducted pursuant to those laws that were agreed upon.
All right.
So for somebody to have a grievance on a playfield that he created himself, pursuant to demonstrations that he undertook in the streets of Nairobi and all over the place where some people died. I don't know why he wanted people to die, and then he does not want to participate in that election.
All right, Honorable Chepkonga.
I want to tell you, the people who turned up are those who wanted to vote. And you know, Article 38 of the Constitution is very clear.
All right.
It clearly states, Michael, that voting is a choice.
There are many things you brought up, and I would like Honorable Wamalo to respond before we have many other things on the table.
Absolutely. You know, Honorable Chepkonga was the chair of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee.
Correct.
And during his time, he tried, but bad things happened, him as the chair. He has actually indicated about the bipartisan committee that was being chaired by Orengo and Kiraitu.
So how can that one
Him as the chair, he was totally against that. I remember very well. He was totally against that. And it was a bipartisan. It came in as a result of dialogue. And it's true what he has said, that we had agreed that our comma should not be changed. But afterwards, the leader of majority introduced some amendments to the elections law, which watered down all the gains that had been put in place. And I want you to listen to me. I know you're very busy on the phone. Honorable Chepkonga is here, and I want him to say, yesterday when His Excellency the President misled Kenyans when it comes to the assent of the electoral law, it was very, very unfortunate. I saw it as something which was very hypocritical, because this elections law, whatever they amended, was not in line with the initial interests of the Kiraitu and Orengo committee. The president comes and tells Kenyans, I did not assent. But when you read Article 115 of the Constitution, it is very clear. The president must assent, or he shall refer it back to Parliament with maybe some...
but technically, he didn't lie. He said he did not assent.
No,
and he has not signed
I'm qualifying.
Okay.
I want you to listen.
Okay.
Okay? Do the listening, my brother. So in this case, he left the law to become automatically assented. If the law goes to the president within 14 days, he can decide to assent or reject it with a memorandum back to Parliament. But he decided to fool Kenyans that we're not going to assent. The common Mwananchi didn't know the implication. But within 14 days, it is implied it's been assented. And after the assent, within the 7 days, it must be gazetted. And once it's gazetted, within 14 days, it must be enforced into the law. But in this case, when you look at that amendment, that act right now, it stipulates clearly that once it's gazetted, it's enforced. So as we speak right now, the question you're asking, because now when you go to the Supreme Court, they want this law to be applicable now. It is not even in the next general election. You are changing the rules of the game midway to favor you. And this is what's happening. One of the issues in that amendment law, when you look at it, it says that when it comes to matters of electronic, if there is no consistency, you go as per the manual one. And this is what happened. That's why you saw the returning officers coming all the way with the manual forms 34Bs. And this, yeah, that is true. And those ones are prone to fraud, voter starving. And I have no doubt that voter starving happened.
All right.
And that's why the numbers are not adding up.
Okay.
Already we have a problem with the voter turnout. We don't know how many Kenyans voted. Others are saying 3.5 million. Others are coming up with 7.4 million. So really, this is a minority. And President Uhuru, whatever he is, he must be a concerned person. His speech should have been unifying and reconciliatory. Instead, it was just stamping, you know, and that is not good for the president of this country, because you are a unifying factor. Raila Amolo Odinga never went anywhere knocking people's doors that I want dialogue. It is the civil society, it is the church, it's the international community. And because he's a person who listens, he said, let's now talk. But we're not interested in Usumukate. We want a whole loaf.
We want the whole loaf.
From us.
Honorable Chepkonga, and as you answer, is the president fooling us? Because just like Honorable Chris Wamalo mentions, yes, he did not sign, and that's a fact. But after 14 days, which I think was probably yesterday, it automatically is assumed and becomes a law. So was that just political posturing to the international community and to Kenyans that he did not sign? Yet, by virtue of the fact that he did not reject it, means it may actually become law.
It's already law.
You know, I excuse Honorable Amalo because although he's a lawmaker, he's not a lawyer. But he's expected to know this.
But I'm sure he's conversant with the law.
There's a maxim in law which says ignorance of the law is not defense.
Correct.
And I expect him to know what the Constitution states. Let me say at the outset that the president's win is not minority. 98% is not minority. For those who participated and who wish to participate, everybody was given an opportunity to participate, except those guys who mounted violence to prevent others from voting. But others, you know, I'm answering the question. I'm answering the question. I have been asked why is it that it's a minority, and I'm saying it's not minority. 7,483,000 is not minority. The rest got about 2%. Uhuru Kenyatta got 98%. So that cannot be a minority. I do not know where these words minority come from, unless we go to the dictionary and look at the numbers. You know, and I have told you, Michael, just look at what happened on 8th of August. 15 million voted. It is over half. We have about almost 7.7 million who voted in this election.
Who still voted again.
Who still voted again. And if you look at Uhuru's votes, this was 90% of the votes he got on 8th of August.
All right, on the question...
And let me tell you, on the law. On the law is very clear. You know, gerrymandering will not assist you here. You know, if you look at Article 115, and that's why I brought this constitution for your benefit, not for his benefit. He's supposed to know.
I have
at least I can excuse you, but you cannot be excused.
Unfortunately, Kenya will not excuse me.
You must act within the law. And if you look at Article 2, it says that every Kenyan must respect and uphold and defend this constitution. And that's what the president is doing.
Can we get to the answer?
Under Article 115 of the Constitution, it is very clear. If the president does not assent to a law, it is taken to automatically to have been assented within 14 days.
Correct.
Article
14 days was yesterday.
Yes, and that is within the law. And the president gave very good reasons. He said he was lobbied by many people, including the foreign envoys,
but
including envoys who said, and many Kenyans who presented, you know, unfortunately, you know what happened to NASA. They refused to participate in committees, and then they come here to talk shows. I'm coming to what you are saying. You know, Muhammad never participated in the passage of this law. He never participated in the public participation. So he doesn't know what Kenyans said. What I can tell you, because I heard and I listened myself, and members of the Jubilee Party participated. And Kenyans said, please do not assent to this bill so that you can benefit from it in this coming election. And the president looked at it, because if you look at Article 116, even laws that are passed generally by Parliament that endorse upon them a benefit, they do not come into effect within that time. And so I guess good reasoning by the president, he looked at that and he applied on this. And let me tell you, Michael. Just hold on. Let me finish. I have not intervened. Michael, I'm finishing.
I'll request that you get to the point.
Yes, I am getting. I am not meandering. In fact, I'm telling you what is true.
Okay, so what you've said so
Article
far.
116.
What you've said so far is that it has become law.
No, it has not become law.
It has.
It hasn't. Article 116 of the Constitution is very clear.
Let me say why it's
a law that has not been assented to by the president becomes law within 14 days. Article 116 clearly states that the bill that has been assented, so it is assumed that has been assented, the president shall gazette it within 14 days.
It is 7 days.
7 days.
No, 7 days. No.
We have the Constitution.
Michael, let me read for you. Michael, let me read.
Please read.
A bill passed by Parliament or assented to by the President shall be published in the Gazette as an Act of Parliament within 7 days after assent. Subject to Clause 3, an Act of Parliament comes into force on the 14th day after its publication in the Gazette, unless The Act stipulates a different
Which they have
date.
done.
And,
In the new Act,
in
it
this amendment,
stipulates
just
that
listen to
upon
me.
All right,
Just listen.
gentlemen,
Let me finish,
gentlemen,
Michael.
all
Let me
right,
finish.
please
Let me finish, Michael.
Please finish, Honorable
Why
Chepkonga.
he's trying to confuse issues because he doesn't want the truth
You
to
know,
come
I'm
out.
an educated person.
I'll not
Gentlemen, if we all talk, we cannot be had. Let's have Honorable Chepkonga finish.
The bill as it is stipulates very clearly that this Act of Parliament shall come into operation upon cassetting.
Yes.
This bill has not been cassetted, so it is not operational.
All right, I'll pause you because we need to release KTN Home. In just a second, let me release KTN Home. Those of you watching us on KTN Home, this is time for us to take a break and say goodbye to you. But on KTN News, we continue, and we want to find out what does the law say. Now, these are the legislators, and they're the ones who are in charge of making laws. So we want to find out and at least settle on this as we come back. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back, and then we'll also find out what next for NASA.